Hi, and welcome to the Momversation Club, the podcast born out of the idea that every mom needs a tribe. I'm Christina Streckmeyer.
And I'm Claire Strong. We're two mums just like you, navigating the chaotic, challenging, and often very isolating world of motherhood.
Yep, it said it takes a village to raise a child, but in today's crazy world, we want to know where the F is the village?
That's a question that resonates with many of us who find ourselves raising children, managing careers, and trying to maintain our identities, often with a sense of isolation.
But we're here to remind you that you are not alone. The Momversation Club is your village, a place where you feel valued, appreciated, and understood.
Yeah, we believe that by sharing our experiences, successes, and struggles, we can create a virtual village for all you amazing mums out there.
Join us every week for an honest, raw, relatable discussion about all aspects of being a mom, including the stuff you just can't talk about with other people.
So if you've ever asked yourself, where the F is the village? Then you found your tribe. Let's get into it. Hello, Christina.
Oh, hello, Claire. Your accent was real strong there.
I'm really excited. Actually, that kind of sounded like I was Scottish, which is a bit silly because I'm not. But I'm so excited because this is our 50th episode. We've been doing this thing for 50 shows. Can you believe it?
I can't. It feels like just yesterday you called me up and you said, hey, I have an idea. And now we're here, 50 episodes in, and we're just keep trucking along. And how exciting for you guys as listeners to have been here with us. Thank you so much for listening. Today on our episode, we're going to do a little bit of like walking down memory lane and talking about kind of our favorite episodes, our takeaways, what you guys have been saying about it, and just celebrate with us as we get into it.
Well, do you know what? Let's just take ourselves back to this time a year ago, because this is just crazy how this even came about. So let me tell you. So I originally had an idea that I wanted to do a podcast because I was feeling very isolated and overwhelmed with motherhood. But I didn't want to do this alone. I wanted to find someone who was going to be a great co-host, a great business partner. And I'd been looking for a little while, and I couldn't quite find the person. And you and I had become friends on Facebook because our husbands are related. They're kind of cousins, aren't they? I can't remember exactly.
They share a grandma in some way.
Yes. And so we'd become friends on Facebook, and I just remember seeing all your posts and how positive you always were. And I just felt this real draw to you. And I was like, I know I've not spoken to this person before, but I'm going to hit her up because I think that her and I would make an incredible team, and we would be able to really help other mums out there if we collaborated. And so I called you. We had a chat. What did you think when I initially called you? Because I don't think you were expecting me to ask you to like literally come on board with it.
No. So you had an idea for having me as a guest on another idea that you had for a podcast. Right.
Yeah, another podcast. Yeah.
And you'd reached out to me, and at the time, it was just like I was very pregnant. I was very pregnant and miserable and swollen. And I was like, I am not in any shape to be a guest on anyone's show. Like maybe later, like pass for now. And then I remember when I was starting to kind of come back into myself, about 5-6 months postpartum, I had reached back out to you and was like, I am now interested in being a guest. And you're like, well, turns out that show's not happening. I have this other idea.
About you being the guest, how about you being a co-host and my business partner?
It's like, let me think on that. And then, I think we relatively quickly after that call jumped into the creation of this, and we talked about what we wanted from it, what we wanted our listeners to feel, what vibe we wanted as far as like our branding and our voice. And like, it was really important to both of us to make sure that this podcast wasn't just a place where we went and got therapy or something. It was like beneficial for our listeners. And it was a place where people felt like they were seen, because motherhood can be so isolating, like you had mentioned. And it can be so, you feel like every experience is something that you're doing wrong, or you might be experiencing it differently than everyone. But there's a lot of commonalities that we have as moms. And not a lot of us have that friend or that person that has experience to share that. And so, yeah, I'm really grateful that you had left that space open for us to start this, because it's been such a great ride. Not only professionally for this to have risen the way it has, which has grown so much since the beginning, but also for us to become friends. I mean, Claire, you went from this random lady I was friends with on Facebook, who I liked your content every once in a while, but you didn't post very much. Um, to someone I now, want to share my news about, like, my life and what's happening right away. I want to text you on WhatsApp and be like, you won't believe what happened between, me and this other mom, or like the carpool lane. You didn't tell me about it. It's crazy. But yeah, we've become really close, I think. And it's been really fun to watch that evolve as well.
Honestly, this has just been, like you say, such a crazy ride. And what I love about all of this is that we have developed this lovely friendship. And I mean, God, we contact each other a lot, don't we, Christina? I mean, we chat
Yeah.
about work, but then we also chat about, you'll send me videos or photos of what you've been doing that day with the kids. I do the same with you. And yeah, we've actually become really good friends. And so what has evolved out of a business idea really has also kind of evolved into this lovely friendship. And so, I mean, just think, so this time last year, we were very new to the podcast. We were very new to each other.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking back about how much we've achieved and how much we've grown both personally and professionally since then. So you go first. So from a straight up podcast point of view, what have you been most proud of, or what have you enjoyed the most over this last 50 episodes?
I think that I've really enjoyed learning our sense of humor. We have had so much fun on not just the podcast, but also the social media side.
Yes,
If you
yes.
aren't following us on social media, guys, you're missing out on some quality content.
You're missing out on the best part. The social media is fantastic.
It's something that Claire and I do together, but I navigate. I'm the editor. I'm the behind the scenes person, and so Claire will often send me B-roll or footage of some sort, and I'm always just laughing in tears at like the raw footage. And I have so much fun like creating that stuff and coming up with ideas, and then you sending me TikToks that you're like, oh, we should do something like this but different. And the creative process of that has been really fun, because prior to our endeavor with this podcast, I had kind of been a one-woman show. I had run a successful network marketing business, and while there was a lot of trainings and a lot of like upline and that kind of like stuff, there wasn't a sense of like camaraderie and like,
Yeah,
friendship and partnership. And
yeah.
it's so much more fun to create content with someone else. So I think that my favorite part has been like doing the social media for us, and like really, and also navigating the conversations there, because our audience is really, I mean, we're small but mighty. We may not have
Yeah.
millions of people just yet, but the people that listen to us, they want to talk to us. There's messages and comments and texts and people sharing, oh my God, when you said this, like that was so funny. Like I completely understand that. Like a lot of people just really relate to our content, and the social media allows them to have kind of a straightaway gateway to talk to us.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed that too. I think it's really nice for us as the content creators to see our mission kind of living itself out in real life, if that makes sense. What I mean by that is, we always set up, I mean, our mission statement is really to, well, where the F is the village? I mean, we are trying to create a village for mums who are overwhelmed, isolated, may not have that support system in place. And to get the types of responses and the conversations that we ignite through our social media, through our various platforms, it's just so lovely, because we're reaching the mums that we set out to reach. We're reaching people like us, and
Yeah.
that's what I really wanted to do with the Momversation Club. I wanted people like me who are overwhelmed, who feel like they're failing a lot of the time, who don't have a support network around them. I want people like me to feel like you're not alone, and you know what, you're doing a good job. It's okay. You're going to be fine. You're doing great. And I feel that we're achieving that every single day, whether it's with the topics we cover on the podcast, which then we do relate and transfer into social media as well, or
Yeah.
whether it's just some of the, the stuff we put out there on social. It's lovely. It's lovely to see that feedback, and that for me has been a huge highlight, and that inspires me to want us to keep growing and growing, because we are ambitious, Christina. We love what we've created so far, but we feel that the Momversation Club has a lot of different legs to it, and we're going to be expanding our reach in various forms over the next year. And so I'm excited to see where we're going to be in 50 episodes time, because I think we'll have grown even
Yeah.
more than we have now.
I agree. I think we've got a lot of things, and vision casting is something we both really enjoy doing, and
Yes,
kind of
yes,
logistically figuring out, okay, if we want to go here, what needs to happen next. And our audience is saying they really love this kind of content. Let's really
yes,
dive deep into that. Let's make sure we're listening to our audience, and doing the stuff that they care about, because it's all for you guys. Like we
it
want
is.
more and more people to discover us, because we feel like we're putting out something that is so needed in today's world.
Mhm,
There's a lot of
mhm.
podcasts for moms out there. I mean, you'd search mom podcasts, like hundreds.
Yeah,
But not a lot of moms are pulling back the veil and being like, this is how I really feel about this topic. Here
mm,
is like a raw, unfiltered look at this really sensitive thing that no one's touching,
yeah,
but that matters to us as modern mothers. I think that a lot of the content I've seen out there is like, oh, it's back to school time, and like these are the lunches, the ideas that we can pack. And while that's wonderful, and I definitely like love a Pinterest situation,
yeah,
I desperately, when I was in the trenches of my first rodeo with motherhood, needed someone to say, I feel that way too sometimes.
yes,
And you're
yes,
not alone, and you're not crazy. And,
yeah,
maybe a little, but like you're not as crazy as everyone makes you feel, because we
yeah.
all kind of experience a version of that. So, yeah, I'm with you. I think our vision's strong. We've got this audience who is so loving and supportive,
Yeah,
and vocal towards us.
yeah,
Our content has become a conversation rather than an isolated silo. We get people sending us memes and TikToks and reels and say, hey, this reminds me of when you said this on the show, or, oh, you just talked about this and now I'm getting this reel in my feed. And, we get a lot of feedback about certain topics that are sensitive, and saying,
yeah.
hey, thank you for talking about this, because I feel like no one's talking about that.
So we've actually had to, I mean, I'm speaking personally, but I know you have too. We've had to put our own selves kind of in uncomfortable situations sometimes, because some of the subjects that we have spoken about are very
Yeah.
personal to us. I mean, I'm thinking, of the episode about miscarriage that comes to mind, that was very personal to you. And with myself, my nerve injury that I suffered during childbirth, that's very personal to me. And I felt that I've been very uncomfortable in certain situations during this podcast. And it's taken a lot of courage, if that's the right word. I don't want to overplay it. I mean, I'm not saying I'm going out and
No,
fighting
it's
for our country or
courage.
whatever, but it's courage of a sort, because these are things that I have historically swept under the carpet and kept to myself, because either I was ashamed or I was embarrassed, or it's just too painful to talk about. And so I feel that us just talking about some of the stuff that has happened to us personally and sharing that in this open forum has been it's been a growth experience for me, but it's also been, I guess, a little healing. And actually, the great thing is, I'm thinking about my personal episode about foot drop. We've had some fantastic feedback from that, and that has now cascaded into us, getting out there into the nerve injury, birth nerve injury world, and
Yeah.
so that's why we do this, isn't it, Christina? And believe me, I wouldn't say I enjoyed recording that episode. Actually, it was very raw for me, but I felt it was necessary. And so I feel that I'm growing as a person, as because of this podcast. It's making me face my some of my fears and some of my trauma head on. And because of that, I hope, and I know that it is happening because of the feedback we get, we are actually helping other women who may be going through similar things to what we've been through.
Yeah, yeah, and like you said, it's connecting us to other women, other partners, other organizations that are
Yeah.
all talking about this, and it's amplifying all of our voices. And it's important work that we're doing. I know it seems, I don't know if, like, I can't speak for you, but like for me, it seems like every week I come into my office and I shut the door and I'm just talking to my friend Claire, and
Yeah.
maybe no one's listening, but people are listening and people are, taking this in. And it's important work. When I share this with my husband and my friends and my family, it's not this little podcast thing we're doing. They look at it and go, wow, people need to hear that. People need to hear that that's something that happens to women. For instance, with your foot drop episode,
Mhm.
and with the miscarriage episode, I mean, gosh, that was so hard to talk about. I almost
Yeah.
didn't get through it without crying because it was so personal, but also it just happened. And I remember I knew I was going to share it, but I wasn't sure when.
Yeah.
And that's episode 14. So it was kind of relatively in the beginning of our journey, and only a couple episodes. 14 episodes isn't a lot of episodes when you think about how we record.
Oh,
We record a couple at a time. So it's like maybe our fifth session recording or something. And I'm like, hey, guess what?
yeah.
We're going to talk about this now. Um, but when we started the podcast, within a few weeks, I found out I was pregnant. And we went through, you and I, on the behind the scenes, went through the first trimester together. And it
Yeah.
wasn't until, I could talk about in that episode, that it was like the end of the first trimester that I found out it was a loss. And so
Mhm.
it felt like inauthentic to not talk about it because it had happened. And I knew that if I talked about it, somebody who experienced it might find some healing from some of the words I was sharing. And when we talk about these things, we're not just talking about it from our own perspective. We do research, we offer tangible
Mhm.
tips, we are adding to the conversation. So, with that specific episode, there are a lot of people who have friends that experience miscarriages and they don't know what to do. And it was really important for me to say, hey, these are the things that did help. These are the things that didn't help. And when you're in this situation, if you're someone who's experiencing this is hopefully gonna, ring true for you or give you some solace. Or if this is happening to someone in your life, this is gonna be helpful for you because then you can help them. That's always our aim with these episodes that are sensitive
Mhm.
is, part one, therapy session, just sharing our heart. Part two, what can the audience get from this and how can we elevate the conversation and make it go further?
Yeah, and I'm thinking back to our episode on grief where we had
Yeah.
that wonderful guest. That again, it's not something that people are openly talking about. It's a touchy subject. It's a difficult subject. We'd rather not really face it. But normalizing this and actually making it, taking the stigma out of things and making things not as scary, because we that episode was so interesting to me because the fabulous guest that we had on, just she was a grief expert. Basically, she's a grief doer.
Yeah. Gosh,
um
I'm trying to think of what episode that was, but I know exactly what you're talking about. Her name's
yeah,
Jotifa, or Jotifa.
yeah,
I'm saying that wrong. Oh my gosh.
yeah,
But she was wonderful and she gave us
so
so many
amazing.
tangibles.
So many tangibles, and we follow her, the podcast follows her on Instagram and on social, and she's just doing some amazing work. And
Yeah.
actually, what is a really difficult and raw and upsetting situation, I felt that at the end of that episode I'd learnt a lot, and there was a lot of, there was almost beauty in grief, and she gave so many practical bits of advice on how to
Yeah.
navigate it, and that this feeling is totally normal. It's it's encouraged to feel that way, and then this is how you can navigate things moving forward. And so that's another example for me, of one of the highlights of our 50 episodes so far, the fact that
Yeah.
we're not scared to take on subjects that many others would shy away from, because either maybe it's not, the trending topic on TikTok, maybe it's not something that everyone is talking about. Well, sometimes I feel that this is one of the reasons we're here, because we need to people are experiencing these things. It's just that TikTok's not making trending reels about it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it was bothering me, so I had to get the name right. So that's
Oh yeah.
Joko Tifa, who was from
Yeah.
episode 21, Processing
Yeah.
Grief. And
Yeah.
we've had such luck with our guests. Like we've had so
Yeah.
many amazing guests come on. It was kind of that was like level 2 of our podcast. We're like, okay, we've got a good
Yeah.
vibe. We want to make sure that you and I have a good flow. We're doing
Yeah.
content that's interesting. Now, let's bring on some experts. Let's bring on some guests and really inform our audience. And she was, I think, our first guest. And then after her, we brought on so many different ones that have connected us to so many different things. And I've learned a lot through this show of
Yeah.
just, like you said, like so many things about grief. We've done a breastfeeding episode, we've done a potty training episode, which really helped me because I was in the thick of it with
Yeah. That was
that.
another one, Katie. She's fantastic. She was our guest on the
Yeah.
potty training episode. If you're in that space, you would have, I hope, left that episode with so many tangible tips. She was fantastic. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
I just feel we're doing really great work. We're always, the other thing I like about us, Christina, is that we are so in tune with our audience, and we're always, we do this for you, the audience, and we are constantly wanting your feedback as well. We like to be directed. I mean, so many of our episodes, Christina, have been a result of us either chatting with other mum friends,
Yes.
or our audience has said to us, hey, how about this? And we're like, well, of course. I mean, even Megan, our editor, who we need to thank, because
Yeah.
Megan, you're amazing. And
Shout out to Megan.
shout out to Megan. She's our editor. She edits our episodes every single week. So without her, you wouldn't be like watching or listening this quality broadcast, because it'd be up to Christina and I, and we'd be tearing our hair out and just putting anything out. Um, but even Megan will sometimes say, "Hey, ladies, because she's a mum too. How about this? Had this incident with my daughter last week, thinking I'm not alone here." And we're like, "Megan,
Yeah.
that's great, yes." And
Yeah.
so I
We've
like that
had
we're always
so many
listening
episodes
back.
like that. Well,
Yeah,
and I love we talked about like getting real and raw. Our
Mhm.
mental health episodes have been a lot of results of that kind of stuff. We've
Yeah,
done episode 38, Parenting with Trauma, where I shared a lot of my own experiences, but also I knew there were several listeners who had mentioned like this specific issue. Episode
Mhm.
40, talking about anxiety. We have one coming up that's going to be great about parentification. And so
Yes.
we don't shy away from those things. And I think my favorite one when we talk about mental health is our body image and self-esteem episode we did on episode 26.
Yes, that's on my list as
Is it
well.
on your
I
list
love
too?
it. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah. I'd say
yes.
that's probably
I
probably my favorite one, Christina, actually, for
really
those reasons.
your
Yeah, because
favorite?
well, when I say favorite, I don't mean not necessarily because it was like the most fun one we've ever done. It wasn't because of that. It was because, as a mom, as a woman, you know, we do struggle with body image. I would say most moms do. I mean, even
Yeah.
if prior to being pregnant, you were what society considered, the perfect figure or whatever, as a mom, your body shifts. We were talking just before we hit record on this episode. And so I'm wearing this top, but you can't see, it's a little short. And I said to you, didn't I? I said, oh gosh, is this top a little short? And you said, no, I can't see it. And I was like, well, that's good, because since having my girls, it doesn't matter what I do, I can't get that like washboard stomach anymore. Like my lower stomach is, and you were like, yeah, that's because it's your uterus and it doesn't go back. So yeah, it doesn't go back. And
I
so
was like, it's
that
like an
body
organ in your body. You can't really
organ,
exercise that off.
I know. I'm like, can you like just like squash down for me just while I'm wearing this outfit? No, we can't. We can't do that. And so, that body image episode for me was particularly cathartic because, prior to being a mom, I was training to go to ballet school. I was a lingerie model. I mean, I had what society would have classed as, the perfect figure. And I don't look like that anymore. And it's not because of anything I've necessarily done or not done. It's because, I am a mom. I've had 2 kids, and I'm also not 18 anymore or 22 anymore. And that's
Yeah.
okay. And so that body image one for me, I just felt was extremely helpful to most of our audience. I would say that, most of my friends, I don't know anyone actually who is fully comfortable with their body image. And that's sad, and it's a shame, and I want that to change. And so I love that episode for those reasons.
Yeah, I think so. And there's a lot of episodes like that where it's like, oh my God, we've hit the nail on the head. This is a conversation that a lot of us are having with our close friends or internally and haven't really found a place to put it.
Yes,
And that was a big one.
internally. Yeah,
And
it
and I
is.
love that you and I are parents of girls because I feel like in a way you and I are so aware of some of this stuff and we're parenting with that mindfulness in mind. And I think we also speak to if you're a boy mom, there's a lot of times when we'll bring in like boy mom experiences because we have friends.
Yeah.
And so there's something for everyone. Like if you're a mother who like is breathing, you're probably going to find one of our episodes helpful.
I
I
hate
feel like we cover so many different things, and it's like it's a mixture. What I really appreciate is it gets serious, but then we'll have like such a wacky episode afterwards where we're laughing and having a great time. So it's like any friendship you'd have where sometimes you are getting into a real conversation and other times you're just kind of kicking off.
Yeah, I love that. I feel that we've struck the right balance there because, we don't want our listeners to come away depressed and, have the weight of the world on their shoulders.
Yeah.
We do want to tackle, heavier subjects sometimes. So we feel that they need to be out there. But I do like that we balance that with just, lighthearted episodes where we're just, having a moan about the week or having a laugh at ourselves. And I think that's the right balance to strike. Um, I'm interested in, like, where do you want us to go in the next year? I mean, like, for you, like, what else do you think we can add in this space, Christine? I know we speak about it from a business point of view, but from you personally, if you were one of our listeners, if you were our audience, what would you like to see us do over the next 50 episodes?
Well, I'm excited to do what we've been doing, but better, elevated.
Mm, yeah,
Season two comes in when you have one season, it's just like a TV show. In season one of
yeah,
any show you've ever watched, it's like there's a little bit of awkward footing. You're learning the characters, you're finding each other. There's that sense of we're figuring our stuff out as we go here. Season two, we have a really locked in idea of who we are, what we're doing, and why. And I
yeah,
feel like we can just solidify that. And one of the things I'm really excited about is because we built an audience and we're starting to get out there and having partnerships and things like that,
yeah,
we're bringing on some quality guests. Not that
yeah,
we've always had quality guests, but we're having some people approach us and be like, "Hey, I want to be on your show." We have an author coming on in the next, sometime soon in season two. Not sure on the date,
yeah,
but they approached us. They said, "Hey, we saw some of your content around being autism parents and ADHD and neurodiversity, and we think that you would be great for our author that we have promoting their book." And it was really fun for me to get that email. I made sure it wasn't spam and that we weren't being catfished. Um,
yeah,
but
yeah. Because we get some of those, don't we? Sometimes.
yeah, we get some of those
Um,
where it's like, "Hey, we'd love to partner with you. Give us $500," and we're like, "No."
yeah, yeah,
But I'm excited for more of that, for more of people connecting with us organically and finding a home with our audience and wanting to be there. And also, like you said earlier in the conversation, our audience giving us content suggestions. I put it out
yeah,
on Facebook to our audience of like, what do you want to see more of? What
hmm,
are some takeaways you have? What are your favorite episodes? A lot of responses, mentioned the autism and ADHD aspect of our podcast because we both have neuro diverse children. Your
yeah,
daughter being on the your daughter being ADHD, mine being on the
yeah,
autism spectrum,
yeah.
and we talk about that in a way that is real and nuanced. And I think that we have so much to say on that topic that I'm looking forward to diving in deeper there. Um,
Yes.
And then the other piece that people really seem to enjoy about us is our blended families. You and I both have, it's so crazy. We're different in a lot of ways, but we have very similar building blocks of our families. And
Yeah, we
the
do.
blended families aspect of our podcast has been very helpful for our listeners. They like hearing about how we navigate that.
Mm. I what I like about our chemistry and our what we bring to the table as a pair, if you like, as a pair of co-hosts to the Momversation Club, is that, like you said, we've lived a lot of life. Let's just put it like that. We've been
Yeah.
divorced. We've had kids. We've navigated blended families. We've navigated trauma in our life, and we've been working moms. We've been stay-at-home moms. We've been in between, and I feel that because of that, we are able to be we're very relatable. We're able to have a connection and empathy with our audience.
Yeah.
Um, and I just, I love that. We haven't lived the fairy book, lives. Either of us have. It's not like we had the stable, I mean, I had the stable upbringing, but I didn't have, as soon as I was an adult, it kind of, went to what. I
Yeah, I
think
think
it's
people
more
can
like,
relate to it though. There's not a lot of people these days that do have the like traditional, whatever the heck that means,
yeah,
upbringing or
yeah,
traditional marriage or family unit.
yeah.
Most of our listeners have some sort of something that relates to one of the things we've got going on.
Sure. And I just love that we're able to, bring all of our, life experiences in the beautiful and ugly forms that they may be to the table. So I love that. And moving forward for the next 50 episodes for me, I agree. I love what we've been doing. Our audience, you guys love what we've been doing. I just want to do that on a bigger and better scale. So yes, that looks like bringing on even better guests, even more guests. That looks like, for me, I'm really excited about partnering with other people.
Yeah.
You touched upon that, but I feel that by partnering with people who share a similar vision to us, we can really elevate our message and we can connect to more mums, which ultimately, Christina, is what the whole goal behind this is. We want to grow our audience because we want to support more mums and we're supporting as we're talking right now. And that's
Yeah.
been the driving force behind everything we've done.
Yeah, yeah, and we've also with that partnership aspect too are starting to bring on, sponsors. We're starting to look at that
Yeah.
aspect of who are the partners that we want to choose in that realm and making
Yes.
sure that they fit with that audience, that it is an integrity filled partnership where the thing that we're talking about relates to who we're talking about. You'll never find a partnership that we're going to take on that makes no sense.
Hmm.
We're not after, like, what's great about you and I is I feel like we really value the voice and the integrity and authenticity of this podcast. And
Hmm.
so in whatever realm we go, we're always going to keep that at its heart of what's best
Yeah.
for our listeners, what do moms need from us, and
Hmm.
how do we continue to make sure people feel seen and heard? Because that's the big thing. Again, a lot of mom podcasts, but not a lot of moms talking about the actual frustrations and hard moments in motherhood or the topics that are not coming up at the play group. You know what I mean? And so in that same vein, if we've earned this trust from you guys, we want to make sure that we're continuing that on as we go into this next avenue of bringing on partners and sponsors and people like that. So I'm excited now that we've been established. We have you guys. You guys are listening and tuning in and giving us feedback. We want to make a good show for you and we want it to reach more eyeballs. And so that's going to really help us accomplish those partnerships that we're talking about.
Yeah, and just to reiterate a point you just made, Christina, behind the scenes, we have this is a business. We run this like a business. We have our marketing meetings every week. We talk about our social media strategy for the week. And so that said, we also are very, very focused on upholding our integrity. And so
Yeah,
as you were talking about, Christina, we are very, very particular about who we
we
want to
are.
partner with. whether that's the guest that we have on the show, whether that's someone to collaborate with on social media, or whether that's a paying sponsor. As long as they fit into our values and they share our vision, we are open ears. But if that person is not a good fit, or if that company doesn't uphold like our values and the values we have for the podcast, then we're not just in it for a quick buck, are we? We're
Yeah.
very, very particular about who we share the Momversation Club platform with.
Honestly, I feel like, record this podcast for that person that we envision on the other side. And there's
Yeah.
so much that we strive to make sure that they feel on the other side. And it's not about the quick buck, like you said, or about, making loads and loads of money. Sure, it'd be great to get paid a little, but like, that's not why we're doing this. It's about those other people on the other side and getting this message of what we're talking about to the people that need to hear it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to hear from our audience. You guys,
Yes.
what have you enjoyed over this past 50 episodes? Whether it's a particular episode that really resonated with you, whether it's some of the social media posts that you've really enjoyed, what have you enjoyed? And what would you like to see from us moving forward? Because we don't want to just stand still. Yes, we think the Momversation Club is great, and we love the work that we've done thus far, but we don't want to stand still. We want to be constantly evolving and moving forward, and we need your help because you are the reason we do this. So let us know what you've liked and what you would like to see from us. Share your ideas with us. We're a melting pot of ideas here, so we'd love to hear from you.
And that brings us to the end of another episode of the Momversation Club.
And if you've enjoyed today's show, which we hope you have, then please don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave us a review. Your support helps us reach even more mums and build a stronger village.
Until next time, bye.